Women are represented in the media in a sexist fashion, literally. Magazines, television networks, and movies represent young women as sexualized size 0, 6 feet tall creatures that simply exist for male pleasure. The fashion industry continually objectifies young women's bodies without giving thought to the consequences that ensue. When girls and women view these images repeatedly, bad things can occur, such as low self-esteem and eating disorders. When men view sexualized images of women, they may begin to view women as objects, which in turn can lead to violence against women. The fashion industry is a known culprit of presenting abnormally skinny models in magazines and advertisements. For example, Karl Lagerfeld is predisposed to disagree with my claim because he is avidly involved in the high fashion world and has been quoted saying that he does not believe skinny models are an issue to society. Lagerfeld is a 75-year-old upper-class white German fashion designer, artist, photographer, and is the current head fashion designer and creative director for Chanel. Karl Lagerfeld has a large stakeholder in the sexualization of women because he is heavily involved in the fashion industry. One has observed multiple articles and research studies done on the sexualization and objectification of women and gender representation in the media. The first two pieces of evidence that were studied describe the prevalence of male and female speaking characters in popular media and the nature of these portrayals, while the other article describes the results from a study that was done to examine young girls' self-sexualization and attitudes towards sexualizing dress and its connection with the mass media and the girls' maternal relationships. Next, one studied a blog post that refers to a research article that was written by the American Psychological Association that highlights numerous studies that provide ample evidence of the sexualization of women, adolescents, and girls across all forms of media. The last article studied looked at the results from a study that tested college students to see if sexualized clothing on a 5th grade girl would manipulate the ways in which they viewed her, even if she had masculine stereotyped traits: intelligent, competent, determined, and capable. By looking at these articles and studies, one is able to argue that if the media were to work on incorporating more women with healthy body weights into the media and work on lessening the sexualized images of unhealthy female bodies in the media, sexual and physical abuse would lessen, while self-esteem in girls and women would simultaneously increase. Gender differences in the media are an issue that seem to be overlooked by many people today. The Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media is a nonprofit organization that wants to bring awareness to the problems associated with gender bias in the media. With the help of Stacy L. Smith, Ph.D., Catherine Piper, Ph.D., and their two colleagues that work in the USC Annenberg Research Department, the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media was able to publish an educational article entitled Gender Roles and Occupations, a look at character attributes and job-related aspirations in film and television, that highlights the prevalence of male and female speaking characters in popular media, nature of those portrayals, and the occupational pursuits of characters. This research article has raised some very important statistics in regards to women's representation in media. For example, in comedy and children's primetime genres, women were given less than a third of all on-screen speaking character roles. To further the data collected, the research team looked into appearance indicators by gender within media. The three forms of media observed for this portion of the study were family films, primetime programs, and children's shows. Within this portion of their study, it is important to note that sexiness was gendered in all three of these forms of media. In fact, the findings revealed that females were significantly more likely to be found wearing sexy attire, showing skin between the mid-chest and high upper thigh region, be thin, and be referenced by another character as physically desirable. The researchers also found that teenaged females are the most likely of any female age group to be depicted in primetime and family films as being very thin. Therefore, because females are portrayed as being thin from a young age and as being sexualized at all ages, one can see that females in the media are there to provide eye candy to even the youngest of viewers. The early sexualization of girls in the media can be seen everywhere if one looks close enough. In the article Sexy Dolls, Sexy Grade Schoolers, Media and Maternal Influences on Young Girls' Self-Sexualization, Christine R. Starr and Gail M. Ferguson, PhD graduates in the Department of Psychology at Knox College, write about a study they did that used paper dolls to examine young girls' self-sexualization and attitudes towards sexualizing dress and its connection with the mass media, as well as the girls' maternal relationships. Starr and Ferguson stated in their summary, young girls overwhelmingly choose the sexualized doll over the non-sexualized doll for their ideal self and as popular. However, dance studio enrollment, maternal instructive TV mediation, and maternal religiosity, both personal and instructive, greatly reduce the odds of sexualization. While it is positive to read that maternal involvement can greatly reduce the self-sexualization of young girls, it is still important to understand why young girls identify closely with sexual objectified teenage girls. Many of the young girls identified the sexy dolls as most likely being popular. One wonders if the reason young girls want to dress sexy is because of their understanding that dressing sexy equates to popularity. The media's high representation of thin sexualized teenage girls in children's shows may contribute to the idea that in order to be popular, one must look just like sexualized 13-year-olds on the Disney Channel. Starr and Ferguson argue that high media consumption may provide young girls a disposition towards early sexualization, which is only realized for those whose mothers display reinforcing self-objectifying attitudes and behaviors. They then assert that young girls that observe both their mothers and female teenage characters behaving in this manner on TV may begin to model their mother's behavior because they have been presented with constant reinforcing images of self-objectification. This makes one question what kind of effects this early self-sexualization can cause for a young girl's future. When a young girl believes that in order to be popular and likable she has to be pretty, thin, and sexy, then what will this mean for her teenage and adult years? In order to understand what the future may hold for a young girl that self-objectifies herself, one must understand if the objectifying nature of women's bodies in the media can be a healthy way to express sexuality or not. Catherine McCall, MS, LMFT, is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is currently on the Speakers Bureau for Rape and Incest National Network, and is the past vice president of the Georgia Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. McCall has written books on child abuse and sexual abuse, and has worked on healing victims through psychotherapy. McCall wrote a blog posted, "The Sexualization of Women and Girls, What's the Big Deal?" This post refers to a research article that was written by the American Psychological Association that highlights numerous studies that provide ample evidence of the sexualization of women, adolescents, and girls across all forms of media. McCall reiterates the fact that young girls can use behaviors of adult women in their lives and portrayal of girls and women in the media to fashion their own actions, identities, and perceptions of beauty. According to the APA study, when one puts a strong emphasis on their physical appearance beginning at a young age, cognitive resources for other mental activities can become limited. For example, this type of attention to body image limits the form and effectiveness of girls' physical movements, leads to increased feelings of shame about one's body, creates appearance anxiety, is associated with negative mental health outcomes, can lead to anorexia, bulimia, and other eating disorders, can lead to decreased sexual health, and can create ideals of female sexual attractiveness, which can lead to men having a hard time finding an acceptable partner to enjoy intimacy with. These statistics show that early self-sexualization of young girls can lead to a very unhealthy sexuality later on in life. It can lead to multiple mental and physical health issues, and can even lead to men having issues connecting with certain women because they may not fit into society's ideal female beauty norms. This brings up the question of whether or not it is beneficial for a girl or young woman to dress sexualized. Young women that self-sexualize themselves early on may believe that dressing sexy will get her more attention, but one has to wonder if this attention is positive. In an article titled, "Too Sexualized to Be Taken Seriously? Perceptions of a Girl in Childlike versus Sexualized Clothing," results are given from a study that tested college students to see if sexualized clothing on a 5th grade girl would manipulate the ways in which they viewed her, even if she had masculine stereotype traits: intelligent, competent, determined, and capable. The authors of the article are psychology PhD students at Kenyon College in Ohio. Their areas of expertise are on sex roles in society, which was actually the focus of the study. Graff, Mernon, and Smolak referred to previous studies that have shown that images of sexualizing women can lead to perceptions that women are highly sexualized, are not competent to succeed in masculine stereotype domains. Due to their interests in sex roles in society, these researchers wanted to find out if the same perceptions of incompetency were found in sexualized girls instead of sexualized women. Their findings were indeed consistent with the findings on adult women from previous studies. They found that the definitely sexualized, less accomplished girl was rated lowest in terms of being competent, intelligent, determined, and capable. Even when a girl was described as more accomplished, if she was dressed in sexualized clothing, she was seen as relatively low on these masculine stereotyped success traits. So, what exactly does this mean for the health and well-being of girls that self-sexualize at a young age? For one, this means that due to their early self-objectification, the girls are more likely to develop unhealthy sexualities and body images as they move on into their teenage and adult years. Due to these unhealthy body images, young women may turn to dressing sexy in order to obtain attention from other women or men. They then may receive the sexual or popularity attention they are so craving, but may, however, be viewed as incompetent by society and/or the men whom they are receiving sexual attention from. One then argues that these perceptions of incompetency connected to sexy dress and the objectification of the girls or women can further lead to physical, mental, and sexual unhealthiness or abuse from partners. All of these studies have brought one to the conclusion that something drastic needs to change. How do we evoke change in a society where low self-esteem for girls and women is so common? I believe the first step is to change what society sees as beautiful. If the media were to work on incorporating more women with healthy body weights into the media, and work on lessening the sexualized images of unhealthy female bodies in the media, sexual and physical abuse would lessen, while self-esteem in girls and women would simultaneously increase. I truly believe that in order to bring up girls that are mentally and physically healthy, confident, and happy, our media needs to stop misrepresenting girls and women. Unhealthy bodies need to be replaced with healthy bodies, and models need to represent more than just 5% of women's body types. Karl Lagerfeld is a perfect example of somebody in the fashion industry that needs to become open to change. He has openly commented about certain women in the limelight, calling them fat or ugly, and has then said that skinny models just look better. I believe that in order for anything to change in a positive direction, the fashion industry needs to be open to a shift on what they consider beautiful. I am not suggesting that they get rid of all of their skinny models. I am simply suggesting that they add some curvy models as well. Girls and women should not be taught to believe that if they do not look like a skinny model, then they are not beautiful. I believe that in order to maintain the physical and mental health of women, the fashion industry needs to stop hyper-sexualizing women and young girls. Hyper-sexualization creates a negative impact on the way girls and women are seen by society as a whole. The studies I have cited prove that something needs to be done. Fashion designers like Karl Lagerfeld need to own up to their responsibility in this. The media and people that influence the media need to be aware of the effects they are having on girls and women worldwide and need to use that knowledge to bring about change.